Tijani's voice thundered through the marble-floored hallway of their duplex in Lekki, his rage shaking the crystal chandelier overhead. His wife stood frozen at the top of the grand staircase, her delicate fingers gripping the polished mahogany rail. She couldn't see his face. She hadn't seen anything in 3 years, but she could feel the heat of his fury radiating across the space between them. "Tijani, please," Adenola whispered, her voice trembling. "Let me explain." "Explain what?" he roared, his footsteps pounding closer. "That you've been hiding money from me, that you conspired with your sister to drain my account. Is that what you want to explain, you wicked woman?" Behind him, perched halfway up the stairs like a serpent coiled to strike, stood Bisola, his mistress, 7 months pregnant and glowing with malicious satisfaction. Her voice slithered into the chaos, sweet and venomous. "Tijani, my love, don't stress yourself. A blind woman will always play victim. They use their disability as a shield for their wickedness." Adenola's breath caught. She turned her head toward the sound of Bisola's voice, her clouded eyes searching the darkness that had become her permanent reality. "Bisola, you're in my house." Our asterisk house," Bisola corrected, rubbing her swollen belly. "The house Tijani built with his sweat while you sat around pretending to suffer." "Shut up," Adenola's voice cracked, her composure shattering. "Tijani, who is this woman? Why is she speaking to me like this in my own home?" Tijani laughed, a cold, bitter sound that made Adenola's skin crawl. Your home. You've contributed nothing to this marriage but tears and excuses. Ever since you lost your sight, you've been a burden, a weight around my neck." The housemaid, Yetund, pressed herself against the kitchen doorway, her eyes wide with horror. She wanted to intervene, to pull Madame Adenola away from the edge of the staircase, but fear paralyzed her. The neighbors in the adjoining compound had already begun to gather at their windows, drawn by the shouting. "Tijani," Adenola said, her voice steadying despite the tremor in her hands. "I don't know what lies this woman has told you, but I have never stolen from you. I have been faithful. I have been patient. I have loved you even when—" "Loved me?" Tijani cut her off, now standing just 2 steps below her. "You call sitting in this house like a ghost love. You call refusing to give me peace love. Bisola is carrying my child, a child that will see, that will be whole, that will make me proud." Adenola's knees buckled slightly. The words struck her like physical blows. "Your child." Bisola's laughter tinkled through the air. "Yes, darling, real asterisk child, not the empty promises you've been feeding him for years." "Get out of my way, Adenola," Tijani growled, his patience evaporated. "I'm moving Bisola in tonight. You can stay in the boys' quarters if you want, or your precious sister can come collect you. I don't care anymore." "No," the word came out small but firm. Adenola straightened her spine, her fingers tightening on the rail. "This is my home. I will not be thrown out like garbage." "You will move." Tijani lunged forward, his hand reaching for her arm. "Don't touch me," Adenola shrieked, jerking backward. But Tijani's anger had consumed reason. His palm connected with her shoulder, not a gentle push, but a forceful shove fueled by months of resentment and Bisola's poisonous whispers. Adenola's fingers slipped from the rail. Time seemed to slow. Yetund screamed from the kitchen. The neighbors gasped from their windows. Bisola's eyes widened, not with horror but with dark satisfaction. And Adenola fell. Her body tumbled down the grand staircase, each impact against the marble steps echoing through the house like thunder. Her head struck the newel post at the bottom with a sickening crack, and she lay motionless on the cold floor, her wrapper twisted around her legs, her headscarf halfway across the room. Blood began to pool beneath her head. The house fell deathly silent. Tijani stood at the top of the stairs, his chest heaving, his eyes wide with dawning horror. "Adenola!" His voice came out strangled. "Adenola!" Bisola remained frozen on the middle step, her hand pressed against her belly, her face pale. Yetund burst from the kitchen, falling to her knees beside her madam's broken body. Madam Adenola, somebody help, call ambulance, call police, she is dying." The neighbors began to pour out of their houses, their voices rising in alarm and condemnation. One old woman, Mama Rashida, who had lived on the street for 40 years, pointed a gnarled finger at Tijani and spat on the ground. "You have done it now," she hissed, her voice carrying the weight of ancestral knowledge. "You have pushed a blind woman on a Saturday night. The gods do not sleep when injustice cries. Mark my words, what you have sown tonight you will reap 1,000-fold." Tijani's legs gave out. He sank onto the top step, his hands shaking, his mind racing. What had he done? What had he done? Baisola's voice, small now and frightened, whispered behind him. "Tijani, she's not moving. Is she dead?" As the ambulance sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder with each passing second, something strange happened. Adenola's lips moved. No sound came out, but Yetund, cradling her madam's head, leaned closer. The words were barely a breath, almost impossible to hear over the chaos. But Yetund heard them, and her blood ran cold. "Your eyes may be closed, but your spirit is waking." Welcome to Stories by Tino, where we bring you the most gripping, emotional, and unforgettable African family dramas. Thank you so much for being here and supporting this channel. Your love and encouragement keep these stories alive. Before we continue, drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from ***. Whether you're in the USA, Jamaica, Nigeria, the UK, or anywhere else in the world. We love hearing from you. Now, let's dive back into Adenola's story. The ambulance screeched to a halt outside the compound gates, and 2 paramedics rushed inside with a stretcher. Tijani remained at the top of the stairs, paralyzed by shock and mounting dread. Baisola had retreated into one of the bedrooms, suddenly unwilling to be seen. Yetund rode with Adenola to the hospital, refusing to leave her madam's side. As the ambulance wove through Lagos traffic, sirens blaring, she held Adenola's limp hand and prayed to every deity she knew, Christian and traditional alike. At the hospital, doctors rushed Adenola into emergency surgery. The diagnosis was grim: severe head trauma, multiple fractures, possible internal bleeding. The surgeon, Dr. Nnamdi, a stern-faced man in his 50s, pulled Yetund aside after 3 hours of surgery. "She's stable," he said quietly, "but she's in a coma. We don't know when or if she'll wake up, and even if she does," he paused, choosing his words carefully. "The trauma to her brain was extensive. She may not be the same person." Yetund's tears fell freely. "Please, doctor, save her. She is a good woman. She doesn't deserve this." Dr. Nnamdi nodded grimly. "I'll do everything I can." Word spread quickly through the neighborhood. By morning, everyone knew what Tijani had done. The story took on different shapes as it passed from mouth to mouth. Some said he had beaten Adenola unconscious. Others claimed Baisola had pushed her herself, but everyone agreed on one thing: Tijani Alabode was a wicked man, and his day of reckoning was coming. Adenola's sister, Funmaleo, received the call at 3 a.m. in Houston, Texas, where she worked as a nurse. She was on a plane to Lagos within 6 hours, her heart breaking with every mile that passed beneath her. When she arrived at the hospital and saw her baby sister lying motionless in the ICU, tubes and wires snaking from her body, Funmaleo collapsed into a chair and sobbed until she had no tears left. "I should have brought you to America sooner," she whispered, stroking Adenola's hand. "I should have gotten you away from that monster." But even as she spoke, something strange began to happen. Adenola's fingers twitched. Not much, just a small, almost imperceptible movement, but Funmaleo noticed. She leaned closer, her breath catching. "Adenola, can you hear me, my sister? Squeeze my hand if you can hear me." Another twitch, stronger this time. Funmaleo's heart leaped. She pressed the call button frantically, summoning the nurses. Within minutes, Dr. Nnamdi was back at Adenola's bedside, checking her vitals, shining lights into her unseeing eyes. "This is remarkable," he murmured. "She's responding much faster than we anticipated. But," he frowned, studying the brain activity monitor, "these readings are unusual. Her brain waves are showing patterns I've never seen before, especially in a patient with her injuries." "What does that mean?" Funmaleo demanded. I don't know, Dr. N. Namdi admitted, but I'll keep monitoring her closely. Over the next 3 days, Adenola drifted in and out of consciousness. When she was awake, she didn't speak, couldn't speak, with the breathing tube still in place. But Funmaleo noticed something unsettling in her sister's behavior. Adenola would turn her head toward sounds before they happened. A door opening, a nurse approaching, a phone ringing. Her clouded eyes would track movement she couldn't possibly see. And sometimes, late at night when the hospital was quiet, Funmaleo would wake to find Adenola sitting upright in bed, her lips moving silently, as if she were having a conversation with someone invisible. It terrified Funmaleo. But she said nothing to the doctors. She knew they would dismiss it as hallucinations or brain damage. Besides, she had her own suspicions rooted in the stories their grandmother used to tell them as children. A blind woman who survives a fall meant to kill her, Grandmother Iya Agba used to say, becomes something more than human. The spirits open doors for her that the sighted can never enter. She sees what others cannot, the past, the future, the truth hidden in men's hearts. Funmaleo had always thought those were just folktales. Now, watching her sister's strange behavior, she wasn't so sure. Meanwhile, back at the Lecky duplex, Tijani's world was beginning to crumble. The police had come to question him about the incident. Thanks to Mama Rashida and several other neighbors who had witnessed the push, Tijani was facing potential assault charges. His lawyer, a slick-talking man named Barrister Cunnell, assured him it could all be swept under the rug with the right amount of money in the right hands. But the damage to Tijani's reputation was already done. His business partners began distancing themselves. Contracts that had seemed certain suddenly fell through. Phone calls went unreturned. Whispers followed him wherever he went. And Bisola, sensing the shifting winds, became demanding and paranoid. You need to go to the hospital and finish what you started, she hissed one night as they lay in bed, the bed Tijani had once shared with Adenola. Tijani sat up, appalled. What are you talking about? I'm talking about making sure she doesn't wake up and testify against you, Bisola snapped. I'm talking about protecting our future, Tijani, if she wakes up and tells the police you pushed her. I didn't mean to push her that hard, Tijani protested weakly. It was an accident. She moved backward. Do you think the police will care? Bisola's voice rose to a shriek. Do you think anyone will believe you? That blind woman has this whole neighborhood on her side. They think you're a monster. Because you put these ideas in my head, Tijani shouted back, the truth finally breaking through. You told me she was stealing from me. You told me she was trying to poison you. You made me think. Oh, so now it's my fault. Bisola laughed bitterly, rubbing her belly. I'm carrying your child, Tijani, your first son, and you're going to let that useless blind woman destroy our family. The argument raged for hours, ending only when Tijani stormed out of the house and drove aimlessly through Lagos, trying to escape the crushing weight of his guilt and fear. He ended up at a bar in Victoria Island, drowning his sorrows in expensive cognac. The bartender, an older man named Oga Thomas, watched him with quiet disapproval. Woman trouble? Oga Thomas asked, refilling Tijani's glass. You have no idea, Tijani muttered. I heard about what happened in Lecky, Oga Thomas said bluntly. The whole of Lagos has heard. You're the man who pushed his blind wife down the stairs. Tijani's head snapped up. It wasn't like that. It never is, Oga Thomas interrupted. But let me tell you something, my friend. I've lived 63 years on this earth, and I've seen many things. But I've never seen a man prosper after harming a defenseless woman. Never. The universe has a way of balancing the scales. I don't believe in that superstitious nonsense, Tijani said, but his voice lacked conviction. Oga Thomas smiled sadly. You will. On the 7th day, Dr. N. Namdi removed Adenola's breathing tube. Funmaleo held her sister's hand, tears streaming down her face as Adenola drew her first unassisted breath. Funmi, Adenola's voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. I'm here, my sister, I'm here. Adenola's fingers tightened around Funmaleo's hand. I saw something. Funmaleo's blood chilled. What did you see? While I was sleeping, I wasn't sleeping. I was somewhere else. Somewhere dark but full of light. And there were women there, old women dressed in white. They spoke to me. What did they say? Funmaleo whispered, glancing nervously at the door to make sure no nurses were listening. Adenola's clouded eyes seemed to focus on something far beyond the hospital room. They said my eyes were closed so my spirit could open. They said I fell so I could rise. They said, she paused, her breath catching. They said Tijani's seed is cursed, and the woman carrying it will know no peace. Funmaleo's hand flew to her mouth. And they showed me things, Funmi, things that haven't happened yet. I saw Tijani on his knees. I saw his house burning. I saw that woman screaming. I saw. Adenola's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I saw myself standing again, but not here, somewhere cold, somewhere far away. You're coming to America with me, Funmaleo said firmly, wiping her tears. As soon as the doctors clear you, I'm taking you home. You're never setting foot in that house again. Adenola nodded slowly. Yes, I need to leave, but not to run away. Then why? Adenola's lips curved into a small, mysterious smile. The first smile Funmaleo had seen on her sister's face in years. To prepare. What do you think those mysterious women meant when they said, Tijani's seed is cursed? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story is giving you chills, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss coming chapter. Hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss what happens when Adenola arrives in America and her spiritual awakening truly begins. What would you do if you had visions of your enemy's downfall? Let us know where you're watching from. The plane touched down at George Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston 3 weeks after Adenola left the hospital. Funmaleo had worked tirelessly to secure her sister's medical visa, coordinating with doctors in both Nigeria and the United States to ensure Adenola received the specialized care she needed. As the wheelchair attendant pushed Adenola through the bustling terminal, she felt the cool blast of American air conditioning against her skin. Everything smelled different here, cleaner somehow, but also sterile. Lacking the vibrant chaos of Lagos, the mix of suya smoke and exhaust fumes and tropical flowers that had defined her world before darkness claimed her sight. We're almost at baggage claim, Funmaleo said softly, one hand resting on her sister's shoulder. Then just a short drive to my apartment. You'll have your own room, plenty of space to heal. Adenola nodded but said nothing. Her mind was elsewhere, still replaying the visions that had plagued her every night since she'd awakened from the coma. In her dreams, she saw things with a clarity that mocked her physical blindness. Tijani's face contorted with fear, Bisola clutching her swollen belly and screaming, a courtroom filled with accusing eyes, and always, those women in white standing at the edges of her consciousness, watching, waiting. The apartment Funmaleo had prepared was modest but comfortable, a 2-bedroom unit in a quiet complex populated mostly by other African immigrants. The walls were painted a warm yellow, and Funmaleo had arranged the furniture carefully to create clear pathways for Adenola to navigate. Let me show you around, Funmaleo said, gently guiding her sister through each room, describing the layout in detail. Your bed is against the north wall, dresser to your right, bathroom is 10 steps straight ahead. But Adenola interrupted her. There's a window facing east. Funmaleo paused. Yes, there is. How did you know? I can feel the sun. Adenola moved toward it unerringly, her hands outstretched. When her fingers found the glass, she pressed her palm against it. This is where I'll sit in the mornings. Something in her sister's voice made Funmaleo uneasy. It wasn't the words themselves, but the certainty behind them, as if Adenola was following instructions from a source only she could hear. That first week in Houston passed in a blur of medical appointments. Dr. Patricia Williams, a renowned ophthalmologist at Methodist Hospital, examined Adenola's eyes with a mixture of professional interest and personal compassion. The damage to your optic nerves is extensive, Dr. Williams explained gently, after running a battery of tests. I won't lie to you, Mrs. Olabode. The chances of restoring your sight through surgery or treatment are extremely slim. However, there are excellent programs here in Houston for adaptive living. We can teach you to navigate your world with confidence. I don't need to see with my eyes anymore, Adenola said quietly. Dr. Williams exchanged a concerned glance with Funmaleo. Mrs. Olabode, I understand this is a difficult adjustment, but denial isn't healthy. I'm not in denial, doctor. Adenola's voice was calm, almost serene. I'm simply stating a fact. My eyes are closed, but I see other things now, better things. After the appointment, Funmaleo drove them home in silence, worry gnawing at her heart. Was her sister experiencing some kind of psychological break, post-traumatic stress from the fall? But when she glanced over at Adenola in the passenger seat, she saw her sister's lips moving silently, as if in prayer or conversation. Who are you talking to? Funmaleo finally asked. Adenola turned her head toward her sister. Iya Agba, she comes to me sometimes. Funmaleo nearly swerved off the road. Our grandmother, Adenola, Iya Agba died 8 years ago. I know when she died, Funmi. That doesn't mean she's gone. Adenola's tone was matter-of-fact. She tells me things, warnings, wisdom. She says the women in white I saw in the hospital are the mothers of the night, the ones who watch over women who have been wronged. Funmaleo's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Their grandmother had been a powerful woman in their village, known for her spiritual gifts. People had come from neighboring towns to seek her counsel. But Funmaleo had left all of that behind when she moved to America, had convinced herself it was just superstition. Now she wasn't so sure. That night, Adenola's screaming woke Funmaleo from a deep sleep. She rushed into her sister's room to find Adenola sitting bolt upright in bed, her unseeing eyes wide open, her body drenched in sweat. He's hurting her, Adenola gasped. He's shouting, the baby is crying, there's so much anger in that house. Who, Adenola? Who are you seeing? Tijani and that woman, Bisola. Adenola's hands clutched the sheets. She thought carrying his child would make her a queen, but she's just another prisoner now. He blames her for everything, for the neighbor's judgment, for the police investigation, for his business falling apart. He pushed her tonight, not down the stairs, but against a wall. She's crying, begging him to stop. Funmaleo felt ice in her veins. How can you possibly know this? I don't know how I know, Funmi. I just see it, like a movie playing in my head, but it's happening right now. 6,000 miles away. Adenola turned her face toward her sister. Do you think I'm going mad? No, Funmaleo whispered, though she wasn't entirely sure. No, I don't think you're mad. The next morning, Funmaleo made a decision. There was a group of older African women who met every Saturday at a community center in southwest Houston, mostly Nigerians and Ghanaians, women who'd immigrated decades ago, but still held fast to their traditions. Funmaleo had attended a few times, but had stopped, feeling like the discussions of herbs and spirits and ancestral wisdom belonged to a world she'd left behind. Now, she needed their guidance. The community center was a converted church building, its walls decorated with colorful African fabrics and framed photographs of the homeland. When Funmaleo and Adenola arrived, about 20 women were gathered in a circle, their ages ranging from 50 to 80-something. The eldest among them, a tiny Yoruba woman named Mama Ibernk, rose from her chair when she saw Adenola enter. Her eyes, sharp despite her advanced years, studied the younger woman intently. You're the one, Mama Ibernk said softly. The one we've been expecting. Funmaleo blinked in surprise. Expecting? How could you? Sit, my daughters, both of you. Mama Ibernk gestured to empty chairs. We have much to discuss. As they settled in, the other women leaned forward with interest. Mama Ibernk reached out and took Adenola's hand, turning it palm up and tracing the lines with one gnarled finger. You were thrown away like garbage, Mama Ibernk said, by a man who should have protected you, but the fall didn't break you, it opened you. Yes. Tears streamed down Adenola's cheeks. Yes. And now you see things that haven't happened yet, things happening far away, dreams that feel more real than waking life. How do you know this? Adenola whispered. Mama Ibernk smiled. Because I've lived 83 years and I've seen it before. Not often, perhaps 3 times in my lifetime. When a woman suffers great injustice, when she's pushed to the very edge of death by someone who claimed to love her, sometimes the ancestors intervene. They pull back the veil. They give her sight beyond sight. Another woman, Mama Ngozi, spoke up. My grandmother had this gift. She went blind from an illness when she was young, but after that, she could predict births, deaths, storms. People said she walked between worlds. It's not madness, a third woman, Mama Zainab, added. It's awakening, but it comes with responsibility. Adenola leaned forward. What kind of responsibility? Mama Ibernk's expression grew serious. The visions you're having, they're not random. The ancestors are showing you truth, but truth is a weapon, and like all weapons, it must be wielded with wisdom. Tell me, child, what do you see when you think of the man who hurt you? Adenola closed her eyes, an unnecessary gesture now, but old habits died hard. I see him drowning, not in water but in consequences, everything he built crumbling. The woman he chose over me turning into his greatest torment. I see legal papers, court proceedings. I see him losing control of everything, his business, his reputation, his freedom to make choices. And his child. Adenola's expression softened. The child is innocent. I see the baby crying, feeling the tension in that house. The baby doesn't want to be there. Mama Ibernk nodded approvingly. Good, you still have compassion. That means the darkness hasn't claimed you. Now listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is very important. She gestured to the circle of women. All of us here, we've suffered. Bad marriages, abuse, betrayal, abandonment. Some of us came to America running from men who wanted to destroy us. Others came seeking opportunity but found loneliness and struggle. But we survived. And we learned that revenge is not about violence or hatred. It's about balance. I don't understand, Adenola said. The universe seeks balance, Mama Ngozi explained. When injustice occurs, when someone with power harms someone helpless, the scales tip. Your visions, they're showing you how those scales will balance themselves. But you have a choice in how that happens. Mama Zainab leaned in. You can ignore the visions, fight them, try to move on and forget. Many women do this. They bury their pain and pretend everything is fine. But the visions will continue, and the man who hurt you will continue his life unchanged. Or, Mama Ibernk said, you can become the instrument through which balance is restored. Not through your hands, never through violence or direct revenge, but through truth. Through speaking what the visions show you. Through allowing what's hidden to come into the light. Funmaleo shifted uncomfortably. Are you saying Adenola should go back to Nigeria, confront Tijani? Not yet, Mama Ibernk said. First, she must heal, not just her body, but her spirit. She must learn to trust the visions, to understand them, to see the difference between what the ancestors show her and what her own pain might whisper. This takes time. She turned back to Adenola. There's an old saying among our people. A blind woman who dreams repeatedly is hearing the ancestors speak. Your dreams are not random, child. They're showing you a path, but you must walk it carefully with wisdom and patience. Over the following weeks, Adenola became a regular presence at the Saturday gatherings. The women taught her their wisdom, how to distinguish between prophetic dreams and ordinary ones, how to ground herself when the visions became overwhelming, how to protect her spirit from darkness while walking through dark truths. They also taught her practical skills for her new life. Mama Ngozi, who'd been partially blind for 15 years, showed her how to navigate Houston's public transportation. Mama Zainab, a former teacher, helped her learn to read Braille. And Funmaleo enrolled her in therapy sessions with Dr. Keisha Brown, a Black therapist who specialized in trauma recovery. But the visions continued, growing stronger and more detailed each night. She saw Tijani's construction company losing a major government contract after a surprise audit revealed financial irregularities. Irregularities that Adenola knew, somehow, had always been there, but were only now being discovered. She saw Bisola giving birth to a baby boy, but the joy Tijani expected to feel never materialized. Instead, she saw him holding the infant with trembling hands, unable to bond, haunted by guilt. She saw their house, her former home, developing cracks in the foundation, literal cracks that the builders couldn't explain, that kept reappearing no matter how many times they were repaired. And she saw herself, standing in a courtroom, calm and collected, speaking words that would change everything. 3 months after arriving in America, Adenola woke from one of her visions with absolute clarity. She felt Funmaleo's presence in the doorway. Her sister often checked on her during the night, worried about the intense dreams. "Funmi," Adenola said quietly, "I need to tell you something." "I'm listening." "I'm going back to Nigeria, not forever, but I'm going back. There's something I need to do there, something the ancestors keep showing me. A courtroom, legal documents, people I need to speak with." Funmaleo's breath caught. "When?" "Soon, maybe in another 3 months after I've grown stronger, after I've learned everything these wise women can teach me." Adenola turned her face toward where she knew her sister stood. "I'm not going back for revenge, Funmi. I'm going back for balance. There's a difference." "What if he hurts you again?" "He can't hurt me anymore," Adenola said with quiet certainty. "I've already survived the worst he could do, and now," she paused, searching for the right words, "now I have something he doesn't." "What's that?" "Truth, and the ancestors walking beside me. He has lies and guilt and fear. I know which is stronger." That night in Lagos, Tijani bolted awake from a nightmare, his sheets soaked with sweat. He'd dreamed of Adenola standing at the foot of his bed, her clouded eyes somehow seeing straight through him, her lips forming words he couldn't hear but understood in his bones. "I'm coming back." Beside him, Bisola stirred, one hand protectively cradling their newborn son, who slept fitfully in a bassinet. The baby had cried almost constantly since coming home from the hospital 2 weeks ago, his tiny face scrunched in perpetual distress. "What's wrong?" Bisola mumbled sleepily. "Nothing," Tijani lied, his heart still racing. "Go back to sleep." But as he lay in the darkness, listening to his son's fretful whimpers, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something he couldn't stop, couldn't bribe his way out of, couldn't escape. Somewhere in Houston, Adenola sat by her east-facing window, feeling the first rays of dawn on her face, and smiled. The ancestors are preparing Adenola for something powerful, but what exactly is she planning? Drop a comment and tell us. Do you believe in spiritual visions and ancestral guidance? Have you ever felt like someone who hurt you eventually faced consequences without you lifting a finger? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to like this video if Adenola's journey is resonating with you. 6 months had passed since Adenola arrived in Houston, and the transformation was remarkable. She moved through Funmaleo's apartment with confidence now, her fingers trailing along walls she'd memorized, her steps sure and steady. But the real change wasn't physical. It was the way she carried herself, the quiet power that seemed to radiate from her like heat from a flame. The Saturday gatherings at the community center had become the cornerstone of her new life. Every week, she sat in that circle of wise women, absorbing their teachings like parched earth drinking rain. And every week, the visions grew clearer, more insistent, more impossible to ignore. It was Mama Ibirnk who first taught her about the mothers of the night. "In Yoruba tradition," the old woman explained one humid afternoon, "we speak of a Yami age, the mothers who wield power beyond human understanding. They are neither good nor evil in the way Western minds think of such things. They are balance. They are justice. They are the force that ensures no wickedness goes unanswered forever." Adenola sat very still, her hands folded in her lap. "The women I saw in the hospital, the ones dressed in white, were they Iyami? Perhaps they were ancestors who walk with Iyami's blessing." Mama Ibirnk reached out and touched Adenola's shoulder. "When a woman suffers great injustice at the hands of someone she trusted, when she's pushed to the edge of death through betrayal, the mothers take notice. They don't always intervene. The world is full of suffering, after all. But when they do choose to act, they often work through a woman like you." "Why me?" Adenola whispered. "I'm nothing special, just a blind woman who was foolish enough to trust her husband." "You're wrong on both counts," Mama Ngozi interjected firmly. "First, you're not just anything. You survived what should have killed you. Second, trust isn't foolishness, betrayal is wickedness. Never confuse the two." Mama Zainab nodded in agreement. "The ancestors chose you because your heart remained pure even in suffering. Many women become bitter, vengeful, consumed by hatred. But you, even in your darkest moments, you thought of that innocent baby. You separated the child from the sin. That's why the mothers revealed themselves to you." Over the following weeks, the women taught Adenola specific practices. They showed her how to prepare for the visions, sitting in quiet meditation, burning sage and frankincense, speaking prayers in Yoruba that her grandmother had taught her as a child, but she'd long since forgotten. "The visions will come whether you prepare or not," Mama Ibarink explained. "But preparation allows you to receive them with clarity instead of confusion. Think of it like tuning a radio. You want the signal clear, not filled with static." Adenola practiced diligently. Every evening, she would sit by her east-facing window, feeling the last rays of sunlight on her face, and open herself to whatever messages the ancestors wanted to send. Funmaleo, who had initially been skeptical, found herself drawn into the rituals as well, remembering the traditions their grandmother had tried to pass down before modern life swept them away. The visions came in waves now, each one more detailed than the last. She saw Tijani sitting in his office, the construction company headquarters in Aikja, staring at a letter from the Corporate Affairs Commission. His hands trembled as he read about financial discrepancies, irregularities in his company's tax filings, contracts awarded under suspicious circumstances. His business partner, Oga Segun, a fat man with greedy eyes, was shouting at him, accusing him of sloppy record-keeping that had exposed them both. "You were supposed to handle this," Oga Segun roared. "Now they're talking about investigations, audits, possible criminal charges." Tijani's face was gray with fear. "I didn't think." "That's your problem, Tijani. You never think. First you bring scandal to your home, pushing your wife downstairs like some kind of animal, and now this. Your stupidity is going to destroy us both." Adenola watched this vision unfold with detachment, feeling neither pleasure nor pain. It was simply truth revealing itself, consequences manifesting as they always did when hidden things came to light. Another vision showed her Bisola, alone in the Lekki house with baby Aluwe-san. The child was 6 months old now, but he cried constantly, a piercing, endless wail that seemed to leach the life from his mother. Bisola looked haggard, her once beautiful face drawn and exhausted. The pregnancy glow had vanished, replaced by dark circles under her eyes and a nervous twitch in her left hand. She was packing the marble floors, bouncing the screaming baby, tears streaming down her face. "Please, Seun, please stop crying. Mommy can't take it anymore. Please." But the baby only cried harder, his tiny face red with distress, his body rigid in her arms. It was as if the house itself was rejecting him, the walls echoing his misery back tenfold. The housemaid, not Yetund anymore, but a new girl named Hadiza, watched from the kitchen doorway with frightened eyes. She'd heard the rumors, the whispers in the neighborhood about the cursed house, about the blind woman who'd been thrown away and the baby who would know no peace. In the vision, Adenola saw Bisola place the screaming infant in his crib and sink to the floor, her hands pressed over her ears, sobbing. "I thought I would be happy," she whispered to no one. "I thought taking her place would make me a queen. Why is this happening? Why won't he stop crying?" Adenola woke from that vision with tears on her own face, not for Bisola, but for the innocent child caught in the web of adult wickedness. "The baby knows," she told the circle of women at the next Saturday gathering. "He can feel the wrongness in that house. Children are more spiritually sensitive than adults. They haven't learned to block out truth yet." Mama Ibarink nodded gravely. "This is why the ancestors emphasize that you hold no malice toward the child. The mothers of the night protect innocent blood. If you wished harm on that baby, they would withdraw their favor from you instantly." "I don't wish him harm," Adenola said quietly. "I pity him. He deserves a better beginning than this." "And he may yet have one," Mama Ngozi said mysteriously. "The path ahead has many turnings. Trust the visions to guide you." But it was the next vision that changed everything. That crystallized Adenola's purpose and showed her exactly what the ancestors wanted her to do. She was sleeping deeply one night when she felt herself pulled into a different kind of dream. She actually stood, on her own 2 feet, in a place that was both familiar and strange. It looked like the community center where the women gathered, but larger, older, the walls made of mud brick instead of modern concrete. Oil lamps flickered in corners, casting dancing shadows. The women in white were there, the same ones she'd seen in the hospital. There were 7 of them, their faces ageless, their eyes knowing. They sat in a semicircle, and Adenola understood without being told that she should sit facing them. "You've learned well," the eldest one spoke, her voice like wind through dry leaves. "You've opened yourself to truth. You've maintained compassion despite suffering. You're ready for the next step." "What next step?" Adenola asked, her dream voice stronger than her waking one. "Return," another woman said. "Return to Lagos, not to that house, never to that house again, but to the city. There are things you must set in motion." "I don't understand. What things?" The third woman leaned forward. "You've been shown visions of what's happening now, but we will also show you what must happen next. A courtroom, legal proceedings, but not the way you're imagining, not a criminal trial that puts him in prison." "Then what?" Adenola's frustration leaked into her voice. "What kind of justice are we talking about?" The fourth woman smiled. "The kind that hurts most, the kind that strips away not freedom, but power, the kind that removes the one thing he values above all else." "His money." "No," the fifth woman's voice was soft but firm. "His authority, his right to control, his ability to shape another innocent life according to his broken will." Suddenly, images flooded Adenola's mind. A courtroom in Lagos, herself standing before a judge, documents being presented, testimonies being given. But the charges weren't about the push, weren't about assault or attempted murder. They were about something else entirely, something she hadn't even considered. "Custody," she breathed. "You want me to take his parental rights." "Not take," the sixth woman corrected. "Reveal his unworthiness to have them. There's a difference. You won't steal anything, you'll simply allow truth to speak." The seventh and youngest of the white-clad women spoke for the first time, her voice musical. "In Yoruba tradition, a father's greatest honor is to guide his children, to bless them, to shape their path. To be denied that right, to have the community say you are unfit to raise your own blood, that is the deepest shame a man can face. Not violence, not imprisonment, but the judgment that you are too broken, too dangerous, too damaged to be trusted with innocent life." Adenola's heart began to race. "But the child is his and Bisola's. I have no legal standing." "You have more standing than you realize," the eldest interrupted. "You're still his wife under Nigerian law. He never divorced you, never filed paperwork. In his arrogance and haste, he simply moved another woman into your home and called it marriage. But legally, you remain Mrs. Tijani Alabode, which means you have rights and responsibilities." "This is revenge," Adenola whispered, uncertain. "No," all 7 women said in unison. "This is protection. That child is growing up in a house filled with violence, instability, and spiritual darkness. His mother is unstable. His father is desperate and increasingly dangerous. Someone must speak for the child's welfare, and that someone is you." "But I'm blind. How can I?" "You see more than most people with eyes," the eldest said firmly. "You see truth, you see patterns, you see consequences before they unfold. And you have something else, you have us. We will guide you step by step. We will show you where to go, who to speak with, what evidence to present. But you must be willing to walk the path." Adenola sat in silence for a long moment, feeling the weight of what they were asking. Then she thought of that crying baby, of little Aluwason growing up watching his father abuse his mother, learning that violence and betrayal were normal, inheriting trauma that would shape generations. "What do you need me to do?" she asked quietly. The women smiled. "First," the eldest said, "return to Lagos in 3 months. Your sister will resist, but you must be firm. Second, contact a lawyer. We'll show you which one in your dreams. Third, begin gathering witnesses. The neighbors who saw the push. The housemaid who served you faithfully. The business partners who know of Tijani's financial crimes, the doctors who treated your injuries. Build a case not for assault but for unfitness. Fourth, another added, visit the house just once when Tijani isn't there. Not to confront anyone, but to see the cracks for yourself. The physical manifestations of spiritual rot. You'll need to testify about the home environment. Fifth, a third woman said, speak to the elders in your former community. Many of them have been waiting for someone to give voice to their concerns. They've watched that house descend into chaos and worried for the child's safety. Give them permission to speak their truth. And sixth, the eldest concluded, trust that what you're doing is righteous. This isn't about punishing Tijani, though punishment will come naturally from his own actions. This is about saving a child. Never forget that. When doubt creeps in, when people accuse you of vindictiveness, when Tijani himself begs and pleads, remember, you're not acting for yourself, you're acting for Oluwaseun. Adenola woke with a gasp, sitting bolt upright in bed. The vision had felt more real than any dream. It had felt like a mission briefing, like marching orders from generals preparing for battle. Funmaleo burst into the room, alarmed by the sudden movement. Adenola, are you okay? I know what I have to do, Adenola said, her voice steady and sure. I'm going back to Lagos, not in fear, not in shame, but in purpose. The ancestors have shown me the path. When? Funmaleo asked, though she already knew the answer. 3 months. I need time to prepare, to learn more, to gather strength, to connect with the right people. But in 3 months, I go back. Funmaleo sank onto the edge of the bed. I'm coming with you. No, Funmi. You have work here, responsibilities, and I need to know you're here, that I have a place to return to when it's done. This is something I must do alone. Well, not alone. The mothers will be with me. Over the next 3 months, Adenola prepared with the intensity of a warrior training for battle. The women at the community center provided contacts in Lagos, lawyers who specialized in family law, activists who worked on domestic violence cases, social workers who could assess home environments. Dr. Brown, her therapist, helped her process the trauma, not to erase it, but to transform it into testimony. Your story has power, Dr. Brown said during one session. Not as a victim's story, but as a survivor's truth. You're going to speak that truth in a place where it matters. That takes incredible courage. Adenola also spent hours on the phone with Yetund, her former housemaid, who had been dismissed by Tijani shortly after Adenola left for America. Yetund was now working for a family in Surulur, but she'd never forgotten her madam's kindness. I saw everything that night, Yetund said, her voice breaking over the phone line. I will testify, madam. I will tell anyone who asks exactly what happened. That man pushed you. That woman provoked him. And now that baby suffers for their sins. Thank you, Yetund, Adenola said softly. Your testimony will matter. Mama Rashida, the old woman who had cursed Tijani on the night of the push, also pledged her support. I've lived on that street for 40 years, she told Adenola during a WhatsApp call arranged by Funmaleo. I've never seen a house descend into such chaos so quickly. The cracks in the walls, the constant crying, the fights that wake the whole neighborhood at 3 a.m. That child needs rescue, and if you're the one brave enough to do it, I'll stand beside you. One by one, the pieces fell into place. A lawyer named Barrister Nneka Akaro, a fierce woman in her 50s who specialized in protecting women and children, agreed to take Adenola's case pro bono after hearing her story. This won't be easy, Barrister Akaro warned during their video consultation. Tijani will fight back with everything he has. He'll paint you as a bitter, vengeful woman trying to destroy his happiness. He'll use your blindness against you, suggesting you're unfit to make decisions. But if you're willing to endure that, we can build a case that focuses not on punishing him, but on protecting the child. I'm willing, Adenola said without hesitation. The night before her flight back to Lagos, Adenola sat in the circle of women one last time. Mama Ibjörnk placed both hands on her head, speaking a blessing in Yoruba that made the air in the room feel thick and charged. You go with the favor of the mothers, the old woman said. You go with ancestors walking before and behind you. You go not in hatred but in righteousness. Speak your truth with courage. Trust that justice will unfold as it should. And remember, the revenge you seek is not the destruction of your enemy, but the protection of the innocent. Keep that distinction clear, and you cannot fail. As Adenola boarded the plane the next morning, Funmaleo hugged her tightly. Call me every day, and if it becomes too much, if you feel unsafe, you come straight back. Promise me. I promise, Adenola said. Then she smiled, that mysterious smile that had become her signature. But I won't need to run, Funmi. I'm not the same woman who left Lagos broken and bleeding. I'm someone new now. Someone the ancestors have prepared for exactly this moment. 12 hours later, as the plane descended toward Murtala Muhammad International Airport, Adenola felt a presence settle over her like a warm cloak. The mothers were with her. Iya Agba was with her. Every woman who'd ever been wronged and found the courage to speak was with her. And in his office in Aikja, Tijani felt a chill run down his spine for no reason he could name, as if someone had just walked over his grave. The ancestors have given Adenola her mission, but will she have the strength to face Tijani again? What do you think will happen when she returns to Lagos? Drop your predictions in the comments. And if this spiritual journey is giving you goosebumps, smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. The baby wouldn't stop crying. Bisola paced the marble floors of the Lekki duplex at 3 a.m, bouncing 8-month-old Oluwaseun against her shoulder, her own tears mixing with his. The sound of his wails bounced off the high ceilings, amplifying until it felt like the house itself was screaming. Please, Seun, please, she begged, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. Mommy needs to sleep. Just 1 hour, please, baby. But Oluwaseun only cried harder, his tiny body rigid with distress, his face red and scrunched. The pediatrician had found nothing wrong, no colic, no reflux, no medical explanation for the constant crying. Some bobbies are just fussy, Dr. Akaffer had said dismissively. But this wasn't fussy. This was anguish. Tijani burst out of the bedroom, his face twisted with rage. Can you not shut that child up? I have a meeting with the bank in 4 hours. I'm trying, Bisola shrieked back. What do you want me to do? He won't eat, won't sleep, won't stop crying. Maybe if you were a better mother. Don't you dare, Bisola's eyes blazed. Don't you dare blame me when this is your house, your karma, YOUR. Tijani crossed the room in 3 strides and shoved her against the wall, not hard enough to make her fall, but hard enough to shock. The baby's crying reached a fever pitch. Don't ever speak to me like that, Tijani hissed, his face inches from hers. You wanted this life. You wanted to be Mrs. Olabode. Well, congratulations, this is what you got. He stormed back to the bedroom and slammed the door. Bisola slid down the wall, still clutching the screaming baby, and sobbed. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. She was supposed to be happy, pampered, secure. Instead, she was more trapped than ever, trapped in a house that felt alive with hostility, with a man who'd revealed his true nature the moment he'd secured her, with a child who seemed to hate his own existence. The housemaid, Hadiza, appeared in the kitchen doorway, her eyes sympathetic but frightened. She'd heard the stories from the previous maid, Yetund, stories about the blind woman who used to live here, the push, the curse that old Mama Rashida had spoken over the house. Madam, let me take baby, Hadiza offered softly. You need rest. But when she reached for Oluwaseun, something strange happened. The moment the baby left Bisola's arms and settled into Hadiza's, his crying stopped. Just stopped. He looked up at the maid with wide, wet eyes, hiccuped once, and then relaxed against her shoulder. Bisola stared in disbelief. How did you? I don't know, madam, Hadiza said, equally surprised. He just calmed down. For the next 20 minutes, Oluwaseun remained peaceful in Hadiza's arms. But the moment Bisola tried to take him back, the crying resumed with renewed intensity. He doesn't want you, Hadiza said before she could stop herself. Then, realizing what she'd said, she clapped a hand over her mouth. I'm sorry, madam, I didn't mean. Get out, Bisola whispered. Take him to his room and get out of my sight. Alone in the living room, Bisola noticed something she'd been trying to ignore for months. The crack in the wall behind the staircase. The one that had appeared 6 months ago had grown. It now snaked from floor to ceiling, a jagged black line that no amount of plaster could permanently fix. The contractors had been here 3 times. Each time they filled it, it reappeared within days. "It's the foundation settling," they'd said, but Bisola knew better. She'd heard the whispers from the neighbors, seen the way older women made signs to ward off evil when they passed the house. They said the house was rejecting its new occupants, that the ground itself remembered injustice. In the master bedroom, Tijani lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His phone buzzed, another message from Olga Segun, his increasingly frantic business partner. The government audit had uncovered irregularities in 3 major contracts. Questions were being asked about bribes, about falsified documents, about construction materials that didn't meet specifications. His company was hemorrhaging money. Clients were canceling contracts, citing reputational concerns. Banks that had once courted his business now returned his calls with cold formality, and somehow, impossibly, evidence of his financial improprieties kept surfacing. Documents he'd thought were destroyed, witnesses he'd thought were paid off, a paper trail he'd been certain was buried. It was as if invisible hands were pulling at threads, unraveling everything he'd built. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from an unknown number. "She's coming back." Tijani's blood ran cold. "Who is this?" he typed with shaking fingers. No response. He told himself it was a prank, a wrong number, but deep in his gut he knew. Adenola. Somehow his blind wife who should have been broken and forgotten in America was coming back. Downstairs, Hadassah rocked baby Aluwason in the nursery. The child had finally fallen asleep, his tiny face peaceful at last. She looked down at him with pity. "You poor thing," she whispered. "You feel it, don't you? The wrongness in this house, the anger, the guilt." She heard the old women talking at the market, Mama Rashida and her friends, speaking in low voices about spiritual consequences, about how innocent blood always suffered when adults committed wickedness. They said the baby cried because he could sense what adults had learned to ignore. The presence of injustice, the weight of curses, the approaching footsteps of fate. Just then, the strangest thing happened. Aluwason, still sleeping, smiled, a tiny, peaceful smile, and his lips moved, forming a sound that made Hadassah's skin prickle with goosebumps. "Ah, done." It wasn't quite a word. Bobby's his age couldn't speak yet, but it sounded eerily like a name, like he was calling for someone who wasn't there. Or someone who was coming. Hadassah made the sign of the cross and began to pray. In the master bedroom, Bisola finally fell into an exhausted sleep, but her dreams were not peaceful. She dreamed of a woman in white standing at the foot of the staircase, the same staircase where Adenola had fallen. The woman's face was obscured, but she held something in her arms. A baby, Bisola's baby. "Give him back," Bisola heard herself say in the dream. "He's mine." But the woman in white shook her head slowly. "You borrowed what was never yours to keep. Now the debt comes due." Bisola woke with a scream, her heart hammering. Beside her, Tijani stirred but didn't wake. He'd learned to sleep through her nightmares. She was having them almost every night now. Always the same theme, losing the baby, losing the house, losing everything she'd fought so hard to gain. She got up and walked to the nursery, needing to see her son, to reassure herself that he was real and hers. Hadassah had fallen asleep in the rocking chair, and Aluwason was sleeping peacefully in his crib. Bisola reached down to touch his soft cheek, and the baby's eyes flew open. For just a moment, before recognition and the inevitable crying began, Aluwason looked at his mother with an expression that chilled her to the bone. It wasn't love, it wasn't even need. It was fear. As if he knew, on some primal level, that his mother's hands were stained with another woman's pain. The crying began again, shattering the night's fragile peace, and somewhere far away, in a plane crossing the Atlantic, Adenola felt the baby's distress like an echo in her own spirit, and whispered a prayer for the innocent child caught in a web knot of his making. Is baby Aluwason spiritually connected to Adenola? Why do you think he cries only in his parents' arms? Drop your theories below. if this supernatural twist is keeping you hooked. The humidity hit Adenola the moment she stepped off the plane at Murtala Muhammad International Airport. Lagos air, thick, warm, alive with the scent of 1,000 stories happening simultaneously. She breathed it in deeply, feeling something inside her chest unlock. She was home. "Madam, may I help you?" A porter appeared at her elbow, his voice kind. "Yes, thank you," Adenola said, her hand finding his offered arm with practiced ease. As they navigated through the chaotic arrivals hall, she could feel eyes on her, people noticing the white cane, the confident posture, the expensive clothes that marked her as a returnee from abroad. But she didn't care about their stares. She had work to do. Barrister Nneka Okoro was waiting outside in a black Honda SUV, her driver holding a sign that read, "Mrs. Allabode." The lawyer was exactly as Adenola had imagined from their video calls. A tall, imposing woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun and eyes that missed nothing. "Welcome back," Barrister Okoro said as they settled into the air-conditioned vehicle. "Are you ready for what comes next?" "I've been ready for 9 months," Adenola replied calmly. They drove to a modest hotel in Aikja, far enough from Lekki to avoid accidental encounters, but close enough to the courts and business district for their purposes. Barrister Okoro had arranged everything: meetings with potential witnesses, consultations with social workers, appointments with community leaders who had influence in family court matters. "We move quietly for now," the lawyer explained as they sat in Adenola's hotel room, papers spread across the small table. "Tijani doesn't know you're back yet, and we want to keep it that way until we're ready to file. Surprise is our advantage." The first meeting was with Yetund. The former housemaid arrived at the hotel that evening, her eyes filling with tears when she saw Adenola. "Madam," she fell to her knees in the traditional greeting, but Adenola quickly pulled her up. "No, Yetund, we're equals now, sit with me." For 2 hours, Yetund recounted everything: the push, Baisola's provocations, Tijani's growing violence toward his mistress after the marriage, the baby's constant crying, the cracks in the house that wouldn't stay fixed, the neighbors' concerns. "That house is cursed, madam," Yetund said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I don't believe in such things usually, but that place, something is very wrong there. The baby cries like he's in pain, but doctors find nothing. Madam Baisola has nightmares every night. And Oga Tijani," she shook her head. "He's like a man being chased by demons. His business is failing, his temper is worse than ever, and he drinks now. Every night, heavy drinking." Barrister Okoro took meticulous notes. "Will you testify to all of this in court?" "Yes, Ma. I will swear on any Bible or Quran you bring. That man pushed my madam down those stairs, and that woman helped him do it. Now that innocent baby suffers." The next day, Adenola visited Mama Rashida in her compound on the same street as Tijani's house. The old woman welcomed her like a conquering hero, summoning other neighbors to witness the return of the wronged wife. "We've been waiting for you," Mama Rashida said, pressing a cool drink into Adenola's hands. "We knew you'd come back. The ancestors whispered it to those of us who still listen." One by one, neighbors came forward with testimonies. They spoke of the night of the push. Several had seen it from their windows. They described the deteriorating situation in the house. Police called twice for domestic disturbances, the baby's crying that lasted hours, Baisola's screaming matches with Tijani that woke the entire street. "That child needs rescue," one elderly man said firmly. "I have 7 grandchildren. I know what a happy baby sounds like. That boy in there, he sounds like he's crying for help every single day." Barrister Okoro documented everything, recording statements, collecting phone numbers, building a case that painted a picture not of revenge, but of genuine concern for a child's welfare. On the 3rd day, Adenola did something that required all her courage. She went back to the house. Not to enter, she'd never set foot inside again, but to stand outside, to feel the energy of the place, to be seen. Barrister Okoro accompanied her, along with a social worker named Mrs. Ebel Okonkwo, who would be assessing the home environment for the court. They arrived at noon when Tijani would be at his office. Hadiza answered the gate's intercom, her voice trembling when she realized who was outside. Madam Adenola. Yes, Hadiza, I've come to see the house. I won't disturb anyone, I just need to look. Bisola appeared at the front door, her face a mask of fury and fear. She gained weight since the pregnancy and lost the polished glamour that had once defined her. Dark circles ringed her eyes, and her hair was poorly tied. You have no right to be here, she shrieked. This is MY house now, get away from my gate. Actually, Barrister Akoro said coolly, producing documents, Mrs. Adenola Alabode remains the legal wife of Mr. Tijani Alabode. No divorce has been filed, which means she has every right to observe the property. Mrs. Okonkwo was already taking notes, her trained eye cataloging everything. The visible crack in the exterior wall, the unkempt garden that Adenola had once maintained beautifully, the sound of a baby crying frantically from inside the house, Bisola's obvious instability. How long has the child been crying? Mrs. Okonkwo asked. That's none of your business, Bisola spat. It's exactly our business when we're assessing child welfare, the social worker replied calmly. May I see the child? No, get away from here. All of you can't do this. Tijani will. Tijani will what? Adenola's voice cut through Bisola's hysteria like a knife. Push me again. I'm already blind. I've already fallen. There's nothing more he can take from me. But that baby, she turned her face toward the sound of crying. That baby has everything to lose if he stays in this house. Bisola's face crumpled. For a moment, genuine desperation broke through her anger. You don't understand. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I thought I'd be happy. I thought he'd love me, but he blames me for everything. And the baby, her voice broke. He won't stop crying, ever. It's like he hates us. He doesn't hate you, Adenola said quietly. He feels your pain. Children absorb everything around them. That's why he needs stability, peace, safety, things this house can't give him. Before Bisola could respond, a sleek Mercedes pulled into the compound. Tijani had come home early. He stepped out of the car and froze when he saw Adenola standing at his gate. The color drained from his face. For a moment, nobody spoke. The only sound was Oluwaseun's crying from inside the house. Adenola, Tijani's voice came out strangled. What are you doing here? She turned her face toward him, her clouded eyes somehow seeing straight through to his soul. I've come back, Tijani, not for you, not for revenge, but for the truth, and for that child who deserves better than what you've created here. Tijani's hands began to shake. You can't, you have no right. I have every right, Barrister Akoro interjected, stepping forward. Your wife, yes, your legal wife, has rights under Nigerian law, and she's prepared to exercise them. You'll be receiving formal court papers within the week. Court papers for what? Tijani's voice rose in panic. Adenola smiled that mysterious smile that had become her signature. You'll see, but I'll give you a hint. It's not about putting you in prison. It's about protecting an innocent child from becoming like you. That's the revenge you never saw coming, Tijani. Not violence, not hatred. Just truth, consequences, and the ancestors ensuring balance is restored. She turned and walked back to the car with perfect confidence, her white cane tapping against the pavement, leaving Tijani standing frozen in his driveway, his world crumbling around him, finally understanding that the woman he'd thrown away had returned as something he could never defeat. A mother fighting not for herself, but for a child's future. Adenola just faced Tijani for the first time since the push, and she didn't flinch. What do you think those court papers will say? Drop your predictions below. If you're loving Adenola's strength, smash that like button. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Coming chapter brings us to the courtroom where everything will be revealed. What kind of revenge do you think is most powerful? Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. The courtroom in Ikeja High Court was packed. News of the case had spread through Lagos like wildfire. The blind woman who'd been pushed downstairs was now fighting for custody of her husband's child with his mistress. It was the kind of story that stopped traffic, that made strangers debate in buses and markets, that had WhatsApp groups buzzing with opinions. Tijani sat at the defendant's table with his lawyer, Barrister Kunal Ademi, a man known for getting wealthy clients out of trouble through technicalities and intimidation. Tijani's face was gray, his expensive suit hanging loose on a frame that had lost weight from stress. Beside him sat Bisola, her hands clenched in her lap, her eyes darting nervously around the room. On the other side, Adenola sat with Barrister Nneka Akoro, her posture straight and calm. She wore a simple blue dress and her white cane rested against her chair. Despite her blindness, she seemed to command the room's attention more than anyone else present. Justice Alufunmaleo Idwale, a stern woman in her 60s known for her no-nonsense approach to family law, called the court to order. "This is a petition for modification of parental rights," Justice Idwale announced, reading from the documents before her. "Mrs. Adenola Alabode is petitioning this court to remove Mr. Tijani Alabode's sole decision-making authority over the minor child, Aluwason Alabode, and to place the child under supervised custody with psychological evaluation and social services oversight. Mrs. Akoro, present your case." Barrister Akoro stood, her voice clear and authoritative. "Your Honor, this case is fundamentally about child welfare. We will demonstrate that Mr. Alabode's home is unstable, violent, and psychologically harmful to an infant. We will show a pattern of domestic violence, financial irregularities that create an unstable environment, and witnesses who will testify to the child's visible distress in that household." "Objection," Barrister Ademi jumped up. "My client is not on trial for assault or financial crimes. This is a transparent attempt to punish him through his child because his marriage failed." "Your Honor," Barrister Akoro responded smoothly, "the petitioner's injuries and the circumstances that led to her leaving Nigeria are absolutely relevant to establishing Mr. Alabode's character and his fitness as a parent. We're not asking for criminal charges. We're asking this court to protect a child." Justice Idwale nodded. "I'll allow it, proceed." The first witness was Yetund. She took the stand with visible nervousness but spoke clearly, describing the night of the push in vivid detail. Bisola's provocations, Tijani's rage, the sickening sound of Adenola's body hitting the stairs, the blood pooling on the marble floor. "And since then," Barrister Akoro prompted. "The house is not a good place for a child, Ma," Yetund said firmly. "Before I was sacked, I saw Oga Tijani push Madame Bisola against walls. I heard them fighting every night. And the baby," her voice cracked, "that baby cries like his soul is in pain. The only time he's quiet is when someone takes him far from his parents." Barrister Ademi's cross-examination was aggressive, suggesting Yetund was a disgruntled former employee seeking revenge. But Yetund held firm. "I'm not here for revenge, sir. I'm here because somebody needs to speak for that baby who can't speak for himself." Next came Mama Rashida and 3 other neighbors. One by one, they testified about the constant disturbances from Tijani's house, screaming matches at 2 a.m., the baby's endless crying, police called twice for domestic disputes, the crack in the wall that kept reappearing no matter how many times it was repaired. "That house is spiritually troubled," Mama Rashida declared, ignoring Barrister Ademi's objections. "You throw away a good wife like garbage, you marry the woman who helped you do it, you think there won't be consequences. That baby feels everything wrong in that place." Dr. Nnamdi, the surgeon who'd treated Adenola after the fall, testified about the severity of her injuries. "In 30 years of practice, I've rarely seen head trauma this severe from a domestic incident. Mrs. Alabode is fortunate to be alive. The force required to cause these injuries was substantial." Mrs. Okonkwo, the social worker, presented her assessment of Tijani's home. "The environment is chaotic and unstable. The primary caregiver, Ms. Bisola, shows signs of severe stress and possible postpartum depression. The father is frequently absent and, when present, displays aggressive behavior. The child shows signs of extreme distress that cannot be medically explained, suggesting environmental factors." Then came the bombshell testimony. Barrister Akoro called Oga Segun, Tijani's business partner. The man looked miserable as he took the stand, avoiding Tijani's furious glare. "Mr. Segun, please tell the court about your business dealings with Mr. Alabode." We had some irregularities, Olga Segun admitted. Bribes for government contracts, falsified materials reports. Tax evasion. I thought Tijani had covered our tracks, but everything started falling apart after what happened with his wife. And how has this affected the household's financial stability? The company is nearly bankrupt. Contracts canceled, accounts frozen by EFCC investigation. Tijani can barely pay his bills anymore. Tijani's face had gone from gray to purple. His lawyer furiously objected, but the damage was done. The court now saw a picture of a man whose life was collapsing, who was under criminal investigation, whose home was financially unstable. Finally, Barrister Okoro called Adenola to the stand. The courtroom fell silent as she made her way forward, her white cane tapping softly against the floor. She sat in the witness box with quiet dignity, her hands folded in her lap. Mrs. Olabode, Barrister Okoro began gently, why are you here today? For Alawason, Adenola said simply. Not for revenge against his father, not to punish anyone, but because I've seen, through visions that I cannot explain but trust completely, what will happen to that child if nothing changes. He'll grow up watching violence, learning that women are disposable, inheriting trauma that will poison his whole life. Someone has to stop that cycle. Someone has to speak for him. What do you want from this court? Adenola took a deep breath. I want Tijani's sole decision-making rights removed. I want supervised visitation. I want psychological evaluation for both parents. And I want this court to appoint a guardian who will put Alawason's welfare above adult egos and wounded pride. Barrister Adami's cross-examination was brutal. He attacked her blindness, suggested her visions were delusions, accused her of wanting to steal another woman's child out of bitterness. But Adenola remained calm throughout, answering each accusation with quiet dignity. When he finished, Justice Adwale leaned forward. Mrs. Olabode, I have one question. You're asking this court to limit a father's rights to his own child. That's an extraordinary request. Why should I grant it? Adenola turned her face toward the judge. Because in Yoruba tradition, Your Honor, a father's role is to guide, protect, and bless his children. A man who cannot protect his own wife, who pushes her downstairs, who creates a home filled with violence and instability, that man has already shown he cannot fulfill a father's sacred duty. I'm not asking you to punish him. I'm asking you to protect an innocent child until his father proves he's worthy of that sacred responsibility. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Justice Adwale banged her gavel for silence, then looked at Tijani. Mr. Olabode, do you have anything to say before I make my ruling? Tijani stood slowly, his legs shaking. For months he'd been telling himself this was all Adenola's bitterness, that she was crazy, that he'd done nothing wrong. But standing there, facing the weight of all the testimony, seeing the condemnation in every eye, something inside him finally cracked. His voice broke. I didn't mean to hurt her. I was angry. Bisola kept saying things, making me think Adenola was stealing from me, plotting against me. I just wanted her out of the way. I never thought. Tears began streaming down his face. I never thought pushing her would. Would what? Justice Adwale's voice was ice. Would nearly kill her, would destroy her life, would turn your own home into a place of spiritual and emotional torment. Tijani collapsed back into his chair, sobbing. Justice Adwale's expression was granite. I've heard enough. This court finds that Mr. Tijani Olabode has demonstrated a pattern of violence, poor judgment, and instability that makes him unfit for sole parental authority. Effective immediately, his decision-making rights regarding the minor child are suspended pending psychological evaluation. Custody of the child will be placed with social services for 30 days, while both parents undergo mandatory counseling and anger management. After which this court will reassess. Furthermore, she paused, looking directly at Tijani. Mr. Olabode, you will have supervised visitation only. You will complete a domestic violence intervention program. And if you ever raise your hand to another woman again, I will personally ensure you never have unsupervised contact with any child. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Tijani whispered. As the court adjourned, Bisola burst into tears, and Tijani sat motionless, a broken man. Adenola walked out of the courtroom into the Lagos sun, feeling lighter than she had in 2 years. The revenge had come, not through her hands, but through truth spoken and justice delivered. Justice has been served, but is this really the end? What do you think will happen to baby Oluwaseun now? Like if you believe the ancestors guided this outcome. Subscribe for the final chapter where we see the ultimate consequences. Comment below, what's the most powerful form of revenge? Where are you watching from? 6 months had passed since the court ruling, and Lagos had moved on to new scandals. But for those involved in the case of Adenola versus Tijani, life had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. Adenola sat in the garden of a small house in Surulere, a modest place she'd rented with money from a settlement Tijani had been ordered to pay. The morning sun warmed her face as she listened to the sounds of the neighborhood waking up. Vendors calling out their wares, children laughing on their way to school, the distant hum of Lagos traffic. She was not alone. Baby Oluwaseun, now 14 months old, sat on a blanket beside her, playing with wooden blocks and babbling happily. The transformation in the child was remarkable. The constant crying had stopped within days of his removal from Tijani's house. His pediatrician, amazed by the change, had written in her report, "Whatever environmental factors were causing this child's distress have clearly been resolved. He is now a healthy, happy infant showing normal developmental progress." The court's final ruling, delivered last month, had been more severe than anyone anticipated. After completing their mandatory evaluations, both Tijani and Bisola had been found to require extensive therapy before being granted even supervised visitation. The psychological assessments had been damning. Tijani showed signs of narcissistic personality traits and poor impulse control, while Bisola exhibited severe anxiety and admitted to postpartum depression she'd been hiding. "They are not currently equipped to provide stable parenting," Dr. Adwale, the court-appointed psychologist, had testified. "The child thrives away from them. That tells us everything we need to know." In an unprecedented move, Justice Adwale had granted temporary guardianship to a foster family. A childless couple, Mr. and Mrs. Augenlade, who lived 3 houses down from Adenola's new home. But Adenola had been granted regular visitation rights as Tijani's legal wife, and the person who'd advocated for the child's welfare. The irony was not lost on anyone. The blind woman who'd been thrown away now had more access to Tijani's son than Tijani himself. But Adenola's involvement with Oluwaseun wasn't about claiming him or replacing his parents. It was about ensuring he grew up knowing love, stability, and peace, things his biological parents couldn't currently provide. "Adan," Oluwaseun had started saying it clearly now, his first real word. Not Mama or Dada, but a name that seemed to bring him comfort. When he said it, reaching his chubby arms toward her, Adenola would pick him up and hold him close, whispering prayers of protection over his head. Funmaleo had returned to Lagos for an extended visit, moving into Adenola's house to help with the transition. She watched her sister with the baby and marveled at the change in both of them. "You saved him," Funmaleo said one morning as they prepared breakfast together. "No," Adenola replied, stirring a pot of yam porridge. "The ancestors saved him. I was just the vessel they used. And he's not saved yet. He still has a long road ahead, but at least now he has a chance." The fate of Tijani and Bisola had become a cautionary tale, whispered throughout Lagos. Tijani's construction company had collapsed completely. The EFCC investigation had led to criminal charges, not prison time, as his lawyer had managed to negotiate a plea deal, but hefty fines, asset seizures, and a ban from government contracts for 5 years. The Lekki house, with its ever-expanding crack and troubled energy, had been seized by creditors and sold at auction for far less than its value. No one wanted to buy the cursed house, as it had become known. Tijani now lived in a modest flat in Aiksha, working as a site supervisor for someone else's company, a humiliating come-down for a man who'd once employed 50 people. His visits with Oluwaseun, when finally approved after 4 months of therapy, were awkward and painful. The boy didn't recognize him, cried when he came near, and seemed relieved when the supervised hour ended. "He doesn't know me," Tijani had said to the social worker after one particularly difficult visit, his voice hollow. "My own son doesn't know me." "That's what happens when you prioritize everything except what matters," the social worker had replied without sympathy. Baisola's fate was perhaps even more tragic. The psychological evaluation had revealed deep-seated issues, a pattern of manipulation and boundary violation that had contributed to the destruction of Tijani's marriage. She'd been the one feeding his paranoia about Adenola, poisoning his mind with lies and suspicions, all to secure her position. But now, with Tijani financially ruined and emotionally broken, she found herself trapped with a man who blamed her for everything. Their relationship, built on betrayal and deception, had no foundation strong enough to withstand adversity. 3 months after the court ruling, Baisola had left. She'd gone back to her family in Onitsha, humiliated and broken, leaving Tijani to face his consequences alone. Her family, shamed by her role in destroying another woman's marriage, had received her coldly. "You made your bed with wickedness," her mother had told her. "Now you lie in it." The last anyone heard, Baisola was undergoing therapy and working in her uncle's provision store, a far cry from the glamorous life she'd envisioned as Mrs. Allabode. But the most profound change had occurred in Tijani himself. One Saturday morning, 6 months after losing everything, he appeared at Mama Rashida's compound. The old woman who'd cursed him on the night he pushed Adenola now sat in her usual chair, surrounded by other elderly neighbors taking their morning tea. "Mama Rashida," Tijani said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I've come to beg for forgiveness." The old woman studied him for a long moment. This man who'd once been so proud, so arrogant, now broken and humbled before her. "It's not my forgiveness you need," she said finally. "What you did was not to me." "I know, but I need to start somewhere. I've destroyed everything, my marriage, my business, my relationship with my son. The court-appointed therapist says I need to acknowledge what I've done, make amends where possible. So I'm starting with you, with the neighbors who witnessed my shame." Mama Rashida gestured to an empty stool. "Sit." For the next hour, Tijani confessed everything. The resentment he'd harbored toward Adenola after she lost her sight, the way Baisola had manipulated his insecurities, the moment of rage that led to the push, the lies he'd told himself to justify it all. "I told myself she'd become a burden," he said, tears streaming down his face. "But the truth is I was the burden. She loved me faithfully for 7 years, cared for me, supported my business when it was nothing. And the moment she needed me to love her back, when she lost her sight and needed my strength, I failed her. Worse than failed. I betrayed her in the cruelest way possible." "And now," Mama Rashida asked, "what do you want now?" "I want to be worthy of my son," Tijani said simply. "I don't expect Adenola to forgive me. I don't even deserve to ask. But Alawason, he's innocent. He deserves a father who's better than what I've been. The therapist says it will take years of work, maybe a lifetime. But I want to try. I have to try." Mama Rashida nodded slowly. "That is the first wise thing I've heard you say in 2 years. The ancestors don't demand perfection. They demand truth and effort. If you truly commit to becoming better, perhaps one day your son will know you. But that day is far away. You have much work to do." "I know," Tijani whispered. "I know." Word of Tijani's apology tour spread through the neighborhood. Some forgave him. Many didn't. But at least he was trying, something the old Tijani would never have done. When Adenola heard about it from Mama Rashida, she felt neither satisfaction nor bitterness. Just a quiet acknowledgement that consequences had unfolded exactly as the ancestors had shown her. "Will you ever forgive him?" Funmaleo asked one evening as they sat on the porch, watching Alawason play in his foster parents' yard. "Forgiveness isn't about him," Adenola said softly. "It's about me refusing to carry his weight anymore. I've forgiven what he did, not because he deserves it, but because I deserve peace. But that doesn't mean I'll forget, or that there won't be consequences. The universe has its own accounting system." "Do you ever regret coming back, fighting this battle?" Adenola smiled, that mysterious smile that had become her signature. Not for one moment. The revenge I got was something Tijani never expected. I didn't take his freedom or his life. I took something far more valuable, his authority, his reputation, his ability to harm others unchecked. And I gave voice to a child who couldn't speak for himself. That's the revenge no one saw coming. She paused, listening to Oluwaseun's laughter floating across the evening air. In our culture, a man's greatest pride is his children, his legacy, his name carried forward. To be declared unfit to raise your own child, to have the community witness your shame, to watch someone you threw away become the very person who saves your son from the poison you created, that cuts deeper than any prison sentence. The mothers of the night, Funmalea whispered, they really did guide you. Every step, Adenola confirmed. And they're not done yet. Tijani has a long road ahead if he wants redemption. Oluwaseun has a lifetime of growing up to do. And she turned her face toward the setting sun, feeling its warmth. I have a purpose now. The women's group is expanding. We're helping other survivors tell their stories, fight their battles, find their voices. This was never just about me and Tijani. It was about breaking cycles, speaking truth, and showing that sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply refusing to be silenced. As darkness fell over Lagos, 3 separate scenes unfolded across the city. In Aikja, Tijani sat alone in his small flat, looking at a photo of Oluwaseun he'd been allowed to keep. He whispered to it, I will become worthy of you, my son. I promise, even if it takes the rest of my life. In Onitsha, Bisola lay in her childhood bed, staring at the ceiling, finally confronting the reality that the life she'd stolen had never really been hers, and the price of her wickedness was a loneliness she'd brought entirely upon herself. And in Surulur, Adenola sat by her east-facing window, her hands folded in prayer, thanking the ancestors who'd walked beside her, transformed her pain into purpose, and shown her that the strongest revenge isn't destruction. It's truth spoken, justice delivered, and innocence protected. The blind woman who'd been thrown away had risen. Not with hatred in her heart, but with wisdom in her spirit. And that made all the difference.